Have you ever wondered how the Ultimate Fighting Championship, popularly known as UFC, came to be? It all started in the year 1993. Imagine a single-day tournament designed to determine the most effective martial art in a real, unscripted fight. That's the essence of the UFC's inception. The masterminds behind this revolutionary idea: Art Davey, an advertising executive, and Rorion Gracie, a Brazilian jiu-jitsu grandmaster. They envisioned a competition where there were no limits, no restrictions, a true no-holds-barred contest. Their aim was to create an arena where the only rule was there were no rules, a place where the primal art of combat could be explored in its rawest form. A platform where a sumo wrestler could take on a kickboxer, or a jiu-jitsu expert could challenge a karate black belt. Thus, the UFC was born, a platform to prove the superiority of one fighting style over another. But how did UFC transform from a no-holds-barred competition to the regulated sport we know today? It's a question that takes us back to the early days of UFC, where there was a clear need for structure and regulation. In the initial stages, UFC was less of a sport and more of an extreme contest with minimal rules. However, the introduction of weight classes marked a significant shift towards a more organized competition. The reasoning was simple: to level the playing field. It was no longer about the biggest versus the smallest, but about skill, strategy, and technique within the same weight division. Then came the introduction of rounds. The idea was to break the fight into smaller, manageable parts. The previously continuous, potentially hours-long fights were now divided into 3 to 5 rounds, each lasting 5 minutes with a 1-minute break in between. This not only made the fights more viewer-friendly, but also provided fighters with short, strategic breaks to regroup and plan their next moves. Time limits, too, were introduced. This was a game-changer as it eliminated the possibility of endless bouts. A fight could now have a maximum duration, preventing excessive exhaustion and potential harm to the fighters. The evolution of UFC rules wasn't just about structure, it was also about safety. And no one played a more prominent role in this aspect than John McCarthy. A former police officer, McCarthy took on the task of developing the unified rules of mixed martial arts. His efforts led to the introduction of rules like no strikes to the back of the head, no eye gouging, and no biting, among others. His work was instrumental in making the sport safer without diluting its raw, primal appeal. So, from a no-holds-barred contest to a regulated sport, UFC's journey has been about striking a balance between maintaining the thrilling nature of mixed martial arts and ensuring the safety of its fighters. With these changes, UFC evolved into a sport with standardized rules, ensuring the safety of its competitors without compromising the thrill of the fight. Did you know UFC was once on the brink of bankruptcy? But a group of passionate entrepreneurs turned it into a billion-dollar enterprise. In the year 2001, when the UFC was teetering on the edge of financial ruin, a lifeline came in the form of Zuffa, LLC. This Nevada-based company, led by the Fertitta brothers, Lorenzo and Frank, saw potential in the struggling organization and purchased it for a mere $2 million. Alongside them was their high school friend Dana White, a boxing trainer and manager with an unyielding passion for combat sports. With the Fertittas' business acumen and White's understanding of the fight game, they set out to clean the tarnished image of the UFC. Their mission was to transform it from a fringe spectacle into a respected, mainstream sport. But the road to redemption was not an easy one. The trio had to invest millions from their own pockets to keep the organization afloat. However, they were undeterred. Their commitment to the UFC was unwavering, and they were determined to see it succeed. Under their leadership, the UFC began to evolve. They introduced weight classes, enhanced safety measures, and focused on attracting high-level athletes. This was a stark contrast to the UFC's previous image of a lawless brawl. The turning point came in 2005, with the premiere of the reality television show, The Ultimate Fighter. It showcased the talent, dedication, and sheer grit of the fighters, helping the public see the sport in a new light. The show was a hit, and it propelled the UFC into the mainstream. Dana White, with his charismatic and often controversial personality, became the face of the UFC. His relentless promotion of the fighters and the sport played a key role in its growing popularity. And the Fertitta brothers? Their gamble paid off, as their initial $2 million investment ballooned into a $4 billion sale in 2016. Under Zuffa's leadership, UFC emerged from the shadows and took center stage in the world of combat sports. So how did UFC become a global phenomenon? Well, it all started with a dream to bring the thrilling spectacle of mixed martial arts to every corner of the globe. And with an unwavering spirit, the UFC set out on a journey of global expansion that would redefine the landscape of combat sports. First stop, our northern neighbour, Canada. The UFC found a home away from home in the Great White North, where the sport was welcomed with open arms. The Canadian fans embraced the UFC, and in turn the UFC recognised the untapped potential in this passionate fan base. The Canadian market became a crucial stepping stone in the UFC's global expansion. But the UFC didn't stop there. It cast its sights further afield, to the diverse landscapes of Europe. From the cobblestone streets of Dublin to the bustling metropolis of London, the UFC made its mark. European fighters, with their unique fighting styles and indomitable spirit, played a pivotal role in popularizing the sport across the continent. They became ambassadors of the UFC, captivating audiences with their skill and tenacity. And then came Asia, a region steeped in martial arts tradition. The UFC's arrival in Asia was more than just an expansion. It was a homecoming. The sport returned to its roots, connecting with a culture that has celebrated the art of combat for centuries. Asian fighters brought a new dimension to the UFC, infusing the sport with their rich heritage and exceptional skill. Through this journey, the UFC has not only expanded geographically, but also culturally. It has cultivated a diverse roster of international fighters, each bringing their own unique flavor to the sport. From the icy tundras of Russia to the sun-kissed beaches of Brazil, fighters from all walks of life have found a home in the UFC. And it's not just about the fighters, it's about the fans. The global expansion of the UFC has brought together people from different cultures, backgrounds and walks of life, united by their love for the sport. Through its global expansion, UFC has truly become a universal language of combat. Now, UFC stands as a titan in the world of mixed martial arts, but what does the future hold? Fast forward to today, and the UFC is a household name. It's not just a sporting event, it's a cultural phenomenon. The UFC has revolutionized combat sports and has become a magnet for some of the most talented fighters in the world. The likes of Conor McGregor, Khabib Nurmagomedov, and Amanda Nunes have graced the Octagon, demonstrating their prowess and captivating audiences worldwide. These fighters aren't just athletes, they're superstars. They're on cereal boxes, in video games, and on the big screen. They've become larger than life, and their fights are not just matches, but spectacles. McGregor's clash with Floyd Mayweather, for instance, was a boxing match that transcended the sporting world and entered the realm of mainstream entertainment, breaking pay-per-view records along the way. But it's not just the fighters that have made the UFC what it is today. It's the events themselves, the grand stages where these warriors battle. From the inaugural event in Denver, Colorado, the UFC has hosted events in over 20 countries, each one a testament to the sport's worldwide appeal. And let's not forget the impact the UFC has had on the culture of combat sports. It's made mixed martial arts a mainstream spectacle, a thrilling blend of boxing, wrestling and martial arts. It's brought the raw, unfiltered beauty of combat to the masses. And in doing so, it's changed the way we view sports. The UFC's influence extends beyond the confines of the Octagon. It's permeated pop culture, influencing fashion, music and film. It's become a part of our collective consciousness, a testament to the human spirit's resilience, strength and determination. So, what does the future hold for the UFC? Well, if the past is any indication, the sky's the limit. With new markets opening up, an ever-growing roster of talented fighters, and a fan base that spans the globe, the UFC is set to continue its reign as the king of combat sports. As we step into the future, one thing is certain. UFC will continue to captivate, inspire, and thrill us with the raw, unfiltered beauty of combat.